Hello there, and welcome to a new Teemo tutorial video. And this video is going to be all about the shrooms. So I want to talk about what I think about shroom placement in general, and show you guys some options you have considering where to shroom and what will happen when you shroom there and stuff like that. So let's get some gold and pick up Mobies because I want to be around the map a little. So let's get right there. I'm gonna start with the top lane because this is usually the point where you start having your mushrooms. So let's start around the turret. Mushrooms here, here, and probably also here are very valuable when you get tower dived. So if you happen to be in a lane where you expect to get tower driven by several champs, which are really good at that, these shrooms can do wonders for you because they slow and they will, well, more often than not, this results in people dying when they dive you, and this is really important. So this is your line of defense you want to have if you expect to have play defensively. So this is this point. And next on here and here. If you place shrooms like that, incoming creep waves will pass through here and not touch these. This is very cool because this makes this part of the lane look safe, while when the enemy comes closer to your turret, chances are he's going to step into one of those. So next really important and interesting points are here and here, because people tend to cut corners. And people cutting corners will walk like that and step into a shroom. So that's really cool. That's really cool. These corner shrooms are one of those I blow up most during the game, actually. These get stepped in so regularly that I can only say I feel like these are one of the most important points to shroom. Alright, let's get next to that. So, shrooms here, here, and here are only interesting if you have an enemy which relies on camping in brushes a lot, or people running away from you after a gank or something like that. Apart from that, these are not too useful and commonly placed, but I don't think like they are the best spaces. The best spaces, in my opinion, are here, here, and here. By placing them in this manner, oh, I really want to have auto refresh and mana. More often than not, people try to cut these ways while retreating because they expect the brushes to be shroomed by Teemo. And this area here, I mean, let's put it something like this. It doesn't matter where you're gonna place them. Usually you can only place one or two, but generally speaking, these are very often popped by when retreating, while shrooms on this side tend to be more popped when going for aggressive moves. That are just my experiences towards this. Alright, so let's talk about this exemplar. This shroom will be detonated by the creeps while passing through. This has two uses for me. One, I use them as a retreat point when I want to fight around this area and am afraid that I could be ganked or get attacked. This is very cool because you can just run away, and while the people are chasing you, they might step into that. Also very useful when you backport and have to return. These will hold the lane kind of for you. But keep in mind, the minions always come as a line, so these will only affect the front row and will be not too excitingly powerful. But in general, I use these as a retreat point, as something I can fall back to if I get attacked. That's where the mid lane shroom really shines. You can place them wherever you want on this line. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. Alright, so next point is sealing off the river. I mean, it's pretty obvious, but I want to talk about it still. This protects you very good from river ganks. That's basically it. Most of the time, if the jungler comes across this area, he will step into some of those. But if you want to be really good, well defended against ganks, I can only tell you this, this, and this. These are really powerful spots to cut off the jungler and be able to see him, because usually when they step into these, it's already too late. It's really already too late. So these are, in my opinion, a lot better as defense against junglers. And also sometimes dropping on one here. But again here, try to go more like here, towards the corner, because like I said, people tend to cut corners while walking. So also this one here, consider putting one more on this corner here, not so much in the middle, because I often see people running past these in the middle. So these are pretty much all the things you can do with shrooms in the laning phase, and quite obviously you can use them also as wave clear, but that's pretty obvious, I guess. Alright, so if you're standing at this point in an offensive manner, there are really some things you can use still. Putting shrooms here and here also makes it a lot harder for your enemy to engage on you. And if you put a third one here, you're having this triangle, and here you can fall back and make it really hard for your enemy to get closer to you. So you can kind of solidify your siege with that. And if you are at this point where you're standing in front of the turret, always make sure to go for at least one of these points to cut off the jungler better. And if you have enough control and still shrooms spare, when the enemy is pushed under the turret and you don't want to siege that because it's too dangerous or anything like that, I really love to put shrooms like here, here, and also here. Very cool is also this brush. And apart from that, every single position in the enemy jungle is very attractive. Especially this one, because the most junglers do the red buff and then go towards here. And this is the point where they will blow up the shroom. You can also put one here. It really doesn't matter too much. If you're having the feeling that you're in danger, only put one here. Also, very, very nasty is a shroom here on these fruits, because people, when they're melee, go here and they have to be really close around this fruit, so they will blow it up when they step on it. Very powerful as well. So these are the ideal spots for during the laning phase. I mean, you can extend the reach here like that, and if you're able to build your shrooms deeper and deeper into the enemy jungle, you have mini wards and little thingies which tell you that the enemy jungle is in reach. This is really powerful. So there's not much more to say about the laning phase. I think these are basically the generic usages of shroom placement. I don't want to say which one is best, because there is no real best at this point. You have to adapt it on your enemy and how he's behaving, and it's really situational. For example, if you're playing against Kayn, it's really useful to have shrooms like here really close to the wall, because his normal entry is across these walls, and this way you can cut him off before he gets close. This is only relevant for Kayn matchups, but it's really useful. But apart from that, if you're playing from the other side and want to protect yourself from the jungler, this doesn't work. So if you have your enemy pushed like that, one of the best spots to drop a shroom is here, because this is just the spot which they will have to pass, but also here on the blast fruit, because like I said before, they have to pass it to trigger it, and so you will see them once they get closer to here. Also very powerful is one here, but along the river it's not so useful due to the Rift Scuttler, because he will trigger them. If I put one here, it's a question of time until this little bugger runs towards it and triggers it for nothing, so that's really not useful at all. So let's go for map placements. So again, or no, before you go to the map placements, if you're playing from the red side, of course you can go deeper and drop shrooms on these areas. because these are the regular passageways of the enemy jungle when they go for their work. Also very powerful, of course, is this one here, but I feel like the most important spots are these, because these really help your team out a lot to spot the enemy jungle in time. Alright, across the map. This one is one I really like because it acts out like a ward for this area, and it also does some damage. It's really not bad. Okay, let's go to the mid lane. When you want to shroom the mid lane, like before, shrooms around the turret are good against dives. This is true for every lane. And for the mid lane, more interesting are these points. Because, like I said before, people love to cut corners when go for plays. And so these get blown up quite regularly. This area is pretty hard to shroom because people have a lot of area they can traverse, and your cooldown is limited. You can't plaster down these shrooms like I do here, because you're not gonna have as many shrooms in a real game. So I don't really like to shroom these areas, except from stuff like that. I feel always like closer to the walls is better, because people like to hide behind walls for some reason to deny vision, and thus it's really effective to go like that. For these areas, it's right in the middle, because these areas are usually used by team movements, and one person in the team will blow up these sooner or later. So again, these areas here and here and here. With these shrooms, you can ensure that the enemy team can't move as a team through these choke points without getting blown up. It's really lovely. It's really powerful. And same goes for these spots here. I mean, it's quite similar to this area. It's kind of like the same, so this shroom placement ensures that when the enemy team moves through this area, they will be slowed and they will take a lot of damage. And this is really powerful. So for this area, I always love these, because it's the same as with the Baron. You have some control over the vision. Alright, let's get to bot lane. The most obvious one is here, but don't drop it in the middle. Always at these tri-brushes, way more interesting are these entrances, because let's put it like that. If you want to go to a lane, most likely you go either like that, or you go more like that. And if the shroom lies in the middle, chances are nobody gets over it. It's really important to not go too much for the middle, but much more for the entrance points people have to cross. I mean, it's always a bit of a gamble. Sometimes I'm really surprised over which stuff they don't walk, but these three are way more effective than putting one here. Because again, people cutting corners, no trigger. People cutting corners, no trigger. So if you want to put some like that, put them closer to the wall. And this formation is something you always want to avoid. You want to bring people to just blow up one shroom at a time, because several shrooms don't do shit. It's always damage over time. So if they blow up several at once, it doesn't do more damage. So it's not really interesting. So again, this is a dry brush. These are ideally wind shroomed in such manner. Alright. So let's get closer to the base, shall we? So in the base, very good spots are these. Because with this thingy, you can really torture the enemies when they want to go for these side portals. There is no... they really need to sweep that, or they won't find it. So it's really good. Again, here you have these options. The middle one is for team movements, and the outer ones are for singular person movements. Because I always feel like the middle ones are a bit more failure, they get blown up a lot less by single persons. Alright. On this side of the enemy base, it's quite kind similar. But let's get there. Really good is a point like that, because people love to enter this brush like that. Again, here, this is also pretty obvious. It's the same as on the other side. Here you have also one for the team movement or something like that. But keep in mind, these get revealed by the enemy turret, so you can use this choke point only like that if the tower is already down. If not, go more for this choke point. Alright. So, very powerful is this one, but I already showed that. And when you're fighting in a team fight on lane, it's really cool to go for something like this, because your team will have a lot of safety while falling back with this shroom formation. It's kind of a thing for sieges. When your team is standing here where I am right now, you can ensure with such a formation that when the enemy team chases you, one of these shrooms will get blown up and will give your team very valuable space for kiting back. So this is basically the shroom placement for sieging situations. When you're in team fights, let's get some dummies for that. When you're in team fights, you always want to drop shrooms right into the enemy team, because you see the trigger radius is pretty small, but if one of those blows up one of the shroom here, this guy down here gets hit too. That's really interesting to know, that the shroom explosion radius is a lot bigger than the triggering radius. The triggering radius is kind of small, and look at that. Most of these don't get even touched by the enemy minions, or at least 2 of them remained. So when you want to put your shrooms, always try to go a bit more to the side, because chances are the creeps won't even detonate them. Yeah. Alright. So I feel like this covers up pretty much all of the usages I've seen so far when playing Teemo with all those mushrooms. And I hope this gave you a few ideas how to interact with the ultimate of Teemo. And at the end of the day, where to place your shrooms is very, very game dependent. It's nothing I could say, do this or do that, that's the best way to do it. No. I just showed you all the ways I've seen so far while playing this game, playing this champion a few hundred games, which I found pretty useful in general. But it will always happen to you that your preparation goes south and people keep avoiding spots where you were 100% sure they would step through. It just happens. It just happens. Alright, so thanks for watching, guys. Feel free to leave a comment if you're having something to say about this video or this content. I would love to hear that. And until then, see you guys. Bye-bye.